Hello and welcome back to the Pulse Social Sports podcast, where this week we're speaking to Nathan Tree, a person whose sporting interest has revolved around the notion of blind ice hockey and bringing the sport to the UK. Just start out by saying a massive thanks for taking the time to talk to us, really.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always keen to talk to people and get on the air and promote my favourite sport and promote myself in some ways as well. Yes.
No, absolutely, and I get that it's not the best time of the year and the weather's a bit grotty. So no, we just really appreciate having you
here. Great.
So we'll start out with just kind of a bit about yourself. Who are you and where are you from?
Yeah, so my name's Nathan Tree. I'm from Oxford. I'm 30 years old, just gone. I'm severely sight impaired. I've got a condition called cone rod dystrophy, where my central vision is missing. And yeah, I'm an advocate for blind sport and especially blind ice hockey, but also just promoting what being visually impaired is actually all about, and putting a positive spin on it, really.
No, absolutely. So what does blind ice hockey entail, and how would you say it's different from regular ice hockey?
Right. So blind ice hockey. The first thing is they have enlarged the puck. So it is, as opposed to having like a small vulcanized rubber puck, now it's 3 times the size. It is made of steel and it's hollow and it has a number of ball bearings inside it. So it makes a lot of noise. Like whenever it bangs into anything, there's a big clang. You know where it is just from sound. Like you can work it out with like literally minimal effort. On top of that, there's a couple of other things. So they still have the offside rule. And that is kind of managed. You just have to work out where you are on the ice. But goalies have no vision, so they don't see a thing. They do everything on hearing. And because of that, there's a pass rule on the attack. So you can't just go end to end and score a goal. You have to get into the attacking zone, pass to another player so that the goalie has time to work out where the puck is and set for it. At which point, when a pass gets made, the ref lets off a buzzer, and it's a high-pitched ringing, which tells the goalie that there might be a shot coming.
Okay.
And then the goalie has to try and react to that. To help the goalies a little more as well, as opposed to having a 4 foot by 6 foot goal, they have a 3 foot by 6 foot goal. Just gives you a little less goal to put the puck in when a goalie can't see what you're doing. And if the puck freezes in front of the goal, so if it stops moving for more than a second, I believe, then the play is stopped, so that players aren't just skating straight into the goalie and hurting them and stuff like that. As far as the sport goes, I mean, I don't know how much you or your listeners have done in terms of ice skating. It's quite a tactile and like audible sport. So you can hear people moving the whole time. And in terms of, you've got boards, so it's not like you can run off the pitch like in football or anything. You can just crash and keep going. But honestly, as the higher level you get, even low vision, you get to know where you are on the ice at all times. So there are much less collisions. Well, much less accidental collisions, and people just keep going. And you go out to the US and Canada, and they're extremely high level, to the point where you can watch and be like, how these guys can see everything they're doing, when really they can't. It's really quite impressive.
No, definitely. And you mentioned the Canadians and the Americans. I think I saw somewhere on your profile that you mentioned that you traveled from Europe to America to try the sport.
I did. So back in late 2017, I started seeing my partner, who's an ice hockey player, and I was an ice hockey player back when I could see more, but I quit because I was just like, I can't do this properly, kind of thing. And So she just Googled it. She was like, does blind ice hockey exist? And she just came out, Canada has it as an organised sport. So we messaged them and they were like, yeah, come out in March. And this was December. They were like, come out, fly out in March and come and play in our national championships. And I was like, okay. So we booked flights and I just then tried to get any ice time I could. And I was really rusty and it was really difficult. And then I went out and just got involved from there. And then I went on a 2-week trip. I played in a tournament there where, funny story, I got injured in the first shift because I didn't really realize how high level it was going to be and skated straight into someone. And then I went out to Chicago. I flew from Toronto to Chicago to play in a disabled ice hockey festival. So there was all different disciplines, and I played a few games of blind ice hockey, which is really cool. And yeah, that's really how I got involved. And then since then, I've flown out a few more times. Obviously, that's been cancelled. The last 3 trips I'm going to make have been cancelled because of COVID. And then I've decided, I've got to bring this to the UK and Europe because we want to have like international games and things, really.
No, absolutely. That sounds absolutely phenomenal. The way you just got invited out there and travelled out. Would you say overall that what's been your your high moment of being involved in the sport?
I guess it's twofold, really. My highest moment really was actually before I ever properly played blind ice hockey. It was when I went back to training, having lost a lot of my vision. And I scored my first goal using a regular sized puck. And I was like, this was something I never thought I would see again. I never thought that would happen. And it was actually assisted by my fiance. So she passed the puck to me and I scored. And I was like, this is insane. But in terms of the blind sport, my low point was getting injured on the first shift. The first minute, I blew my knee out. High points are, I'm just feel like an effective player again. I can get out there, I'm assisting, I'm scoring, I'm communicating in a way that I never thought possible anymore. And that culminated in, I've scored a couple of goals in games that I would consider to be real, highlight reel goals, like receiving a pass and putting it just over the goalie's catcher side into the top of the net. And just stuff really battling with people for the puck and then winning. So there was one goal I scored where I was battling with 2 players for the puck and just managed to kick it to my teammate who scored. And it's just fantastic. I've also been very fortunate to play in so I play in a venue in Toronto called Maple Leaf Gardens, which is like a proper it's a university ice rink, but it was the original Toronto Maple Leafs rink, who are really big in hockey. It's a really historic place, and it's just an opportunity that most players in this country will never get as sighted players because it's such a high level thing to do. So really, it's all been strength to strength, really. I've enjoyed every minute of it, but especially being involved with other blind athletes. And then I guess finally in this country, at least, for my highlight was the first ever blind ice hockey thing I did was up in Planet Ice, Widnes, so up by Liverpool. And, all I had done was I managed to get some help to get some ice time. We got an hour, got some equipment, drove up there and put some shouts out on Facebook. And about 10 people showed up and said, I want to have a go at this. And that was, for me, that was big. That was wow, this can actually happen. People actually are intrigued by a sport that's relatively, ice hockey in general is small in this country when you compare with football, rugby, tennis and stuff. So, it's just been a fantastic ride so far.
Oh no, I can completely appreciate that. And obviously, so you've mentioned that you went to the US and you went to Canada and you brought the sport back into the UK. Have you faced any challenges trying to build the sport in the UK at all?
The biggest challenge, to be honest, is funding. It's ice time is really expensive. Been lucky with the 3 sessions I had. I managed to get a grant for 2 of them, and one of them, Planet Ice, which is the biggest ice rink company in the UK, very kindly donated us an hour. It might have been an hour and a half actually, but it's very, very kind of them. I'm very pleased that they did so. And then we managed to get some funding because I live in Oxford. We got some funding from the University of Oxford to run a couple of sessions and get some equipment. So that's been great. But I really don't have a clue where we would get funding to do it more long term. Build a national team, things like that, help people with equipment. Just because sports funding is very difficult to come by at the moment. But I mean, once you get into the sport, you just appreciate it's an expensive sport, and that's what you got to do. I mean, I spend thousands of pounds flying to Canada 2-3 times a year, but it's like most sports. Once you're really hooked on it, you find a way. But that's more of a difficult sell when it comes to people trying things for the first time, and especially like in the visually impaired kind of arena, because they might find it more difficult to travel as well. And there isn't an ice rink in every town and village like there is with a football.
No, I can fully appreciate that. And just one final question, if you don't mind. Do you think disability sports, from both the grassroots levels and then leading all the way up to the professional element, do you think they're on the rise and kind of gaining popularity?
Honestly, I've only really been involved in disabled sport for about 3 years. And, I've heard things about, like, in the past when we've had larger participation in, like, disabled athletics and things. But so I'm not really sure. Again, I'm coming from more of a winter sports perspective, which is very limited in this country because we just don't have the amenities. But I'd like to think that we are building. I'm getting a lot of interest in blind ice hockey, and people are interested in being active. It's more and more important than ever at the moment to be active. So I'm hoping it's building. And again, from the 2012 Olympics and Paralympics, it is showing people how incredible disabled athletes are. We work just as hard as every other athlete, if not harder. And that's just, So, I think it is on the up, but I guess it would depend on where you compare it with in the past.
I just wanted to say a massive thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
That's all right. Thanks for setting it up.
It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much again.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's all we've got time for today. Thanks so much to Nathan for coming on the show with us, and thank you to our audience listening as well. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe to our Facebook, our Twitter, our LinkedIn or our YouTube at Social CIC. That's all we've got time for this week.